Okay, I think we are live, Kimberly.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with me live today. I mean, it's an absolute honor to have you here. I've been your fan for such a long time. I've admired your, really, I mean, your images for me are so cozy, homey. I really love every time when I scroll and I see your image. I know it's yours and I love it. Um, and I'm really thankful that we're going to talk about composition, style, inspiration today. Um,
Well,
and
I feel so lucky to have you as a colleague, and I am honored to be on your YouTube channel. Really grateful that you're giving me this opportunity to connect live with your audience and with you. So thank you, Anya. Really, really grateful.
yeah, I'm so happy. Also, today we are giving away a copy of your book.
Yes.
So yeah, that one. So in a minute, you're going to talk a little bit about your book, but just to clarify, so today we're going to talk about composition a little bit. We're going to go through some questions. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the comments. We're going to try and answer as many as we can. Yeah, but first, before you even start talking about your book, I want you to tell everyone who you are, what you do, and where they can find you.
Yes. So my name is Kimberly Espinel. I'm a food photographer. I'm a food photography teacher. I'm also the author of the book Creative Food Photography, How to Capture Exceptional Images of Food. And most people know me actually through my podcast, which is called Eat, Capture, Share, and my Instagram food photography challenge, which is also Eat, Capture, Share. So there, I share kind of food photography tips and have built a community around the hashtag. So most people know me from there.
Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people got to know you through your challenge, and we're going to talk about your challenge as well. So yeah, I just want to know how you came to be a food photographer. Where does it come from?
Yeah, so it was a total accident. Really, the way that it started is that I was totally into food and I wanted to have a career change. So, like you, I have a son, and when I gave birth to him, I didn't want to go back to my 9 to 5 because I felt it wouldn't fit around his needs. And so I decided to retrain actually as a nutritional therapist. And in that process, hey there, Sarah. In that process, I set up my blog, The Little Plantation, where I shared vegan recipes because I'd recently gone plant-based. And I thought, by the time I graduate from my nutrition studies, I will have recipes there that I can share with clients. And, that was really the thinking. And then I was like, well, I need to showcase the recipes. I need to photograph them. So I went on eBay, I got a secondhand camera. And when I picked up my camera and I started taking photos, it just made me so happy. Like that whole creative process. I see you shaking your it's like, oh my God, I just like the way I can describe it is I felt alive. Like being creative made me feel alive. And by the time I finished my 3-year course, I was so deep obsessed with food photography. I would, get food photography books. I would read blog posts about it. I would study the work of the people I love, like Linda Lomolino and Eva Cosmos Flores, and just obsessed with it. And I was like, this is what I want to do. And by the time I graduated, I actually had a couple of sponsored content opportunities and styling jobs, so that taking the plunge felt possible for me. That's kind of how it started.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it's kind of like really similar to mine. I was like in a dead end job, and so I just left it. I was looking for myself, and kind of the end was a little bit similar to yours. Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Also, this year, like we said, you published your first book, which is very, very exciting. I can't imagine how relieved you must have been after publishing it, because you had so many bumps on the road, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about your book?
Yes. So I really the only way I can describe it is I felt like this really strong urge to write the book. And a lot of it had come because I've been teaching food photography for a couple of years, actually. And every time my students would say, do you have a book that we can take home? And that planted a little seed in my head. And then one day I woke up, I was like, I need to write a book. Like, I know I need to write a book. And I felt it in my tummy. I was like, of course, like there's going to be publishers who want to publish my book. Of course, because I feel the universe is telling me I have to write this book. And so I pitched my book, I think, to about 30 publishers. And they all said,
Wow.
no. They said that nobody would ever buy the book, that nobody would read it, that it was too niche, that, whatever, they didn't want to publish it. And I was like, well, I know I need, this book needs to be born. That's what I always used to say. And so I went on the journey and I self-published the book. And and I feel, so just to show it quickly for anybody who hasn't got it. So I feel what I wanted to do really, and we'll talk more about that today, I really wanted creatives to learn to find their own style, to find their own voice, to really discover who they are as food photographers, as creatives. Because when we create as us, as who we are, the creative being that we are, that's when we start creating something special. That's when we create something where people are scrolling Instagram, they're like, that's Anya, that's Kimberly. Whereas if we create just like everybody else, then that magic is gone and we don't have a signature look. We don't have something that defines us. We hide between, the way everybody else creates things. And so I really want to give creatives the tools to find their own unique style. And that's really the cusp, the central point of this book and why it's different than all the other food photography books out there. So it's not about ISO and shutter speed and, it's not prescriptive like that. It's not technical. It's very much about hearts and connecting to who you are as a creative.
Yeah, I love that, because me personally, I'm a very technical person. And when I read your book, it's almost like reading a novel, right? It's different. It doesn't give you kind of instructions to do things in a very specific way. It just guides you to become better and think with your own mind, right?
Yes. And
so yeah, that's why I love it.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a technical foundation. You need to understand ISO, you need to understand light, of course, all those things.
Yeah, definitely.
But then we can all learn ISO. We can all learn shutter speed. We can all learn the basics. And then what? What is that je ne sais quoi, that little special thing? And that special thing is you. That special thing is your heart and how your heart expresses itself through your photography. And that's really what I wanted. The book is more about reflection and asking yourself questions and keep coming back to, like, who do I want to be as a creative? And I just saw Rumi say, like, there's so many pictures on Instagram that look exactly alike.
Yeah.
And I think, and there's also nothing wrong with that. We all learn differently. But I think there's a lot of teachers who say, put your bounce board here, place the plate here, rule of thirds, rule of this. And so if we all do exactly that, then we have the risk of all our images looking the same. Whereas what I really want to do is to empower you to think, like, what makes me special? What can I bring? What do I love? And really tune into that, rather than the bounce board needs to be here, it needs to be here. Like, we can learn that, but you connecting to you and expressing that's like the secret sauce. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, I love that. And I also remember your words from the book where you said you hate rules. Yes. And I really loved that that sentence. I mean, I also love hate rules. I wouldn't say that I would never use rules, because I also teach them to my students. And like, I personally think that having some kind of grids and this kind of rules really helps you in the beginning, when you just have a blank frame and you don't know where to place anything. And it's like a really nice guiding point to where you place them. But once you get some experience, once you also get to know your style, maybe, then it's time to really experiment and break the rules. Because I think that when you break the rules, this is when the magic really happens, right?
So I think about, like, if we think about the creatives that came before us, like a creative that I love is Van Gogh. Like if I think about, yes, he had to learn technique, he had to learn color theory, he had to learn to mix the colors. But then once he let go of the rules that were of the day, or even expressionism or impressionism, they departed, they set their own rules. And that's when you create something new. That's when you set a trend. That's when you create something where people are like, whoa, like that's something I haven't seen. That's something nice. And that is, as you said, that's where the magic happens, really.
So do you, like, I remember that you talked about this in the book as well, how you plan things ahead for the photo shoot, but do you also sometimes plan your, sketch your compositions, or at least plans your compositions, or is it like you come and you just start creating?
No, I do, because if I have a client shoot, for example, like I did this week, what I don't want to do, because that's my natural default always. For example, flat lay. I love flat lays. Like I could shoot them all day long, all the time. So that's my natural default. And because I think 9 out of 10 times food just always looks amazing as a flat lay. So I want to be sure that I have some variety in my shots, so that I do say, okay, I want to shoot these two as flat lay. This drink probably will work best from this angle. And then, of course, if I take it from that angle and it's not working, I play, but I go in so that I have a nice ebb and flow. And I think once you have a plan, you go into your shoot with a little bit more confidence, because you know what you're trying to achieve. And so it gives you confidence. And then if it's not working, you can rejig and you can play, but stepping in with a plan is and also, if your clients are there at the shoot, if you're faffing about, they'll be like, she doesn't know what she's doing. But if you go in like, okay, let's put this flat lay, let's put this up here, let's do our thing, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, like, it just gives them more confidence. So yeah, I always step in with a plan.
Yeah, definitely. I also do some sketching, especially like with clients, with personal projects. I used to do that when I started, and it really helped me, I think, with compositions, just because I went to Pinterest and kind of draw where they put stuff, like elements, and then I kind of wanted to recreate that, and I think it helped me. But yeah, nowadays I don't do this as much for my personal projects, but definitely for the clients, you really need to do that. So yeah, if for someone who's just starting out, what would you say is the first thing or the most important thing to look at when they're creating a composition? What would you say it is?
Yes, I would say really think about how you want the viewer to travel through your frame. Like you want to take them on a journey. And so be sure that your composition is really guiding and giving like an anchor point. So when they look at you from this, their eye goes straight to where you want it to go, and then guide it through. So they really are savoring the whole image, so that there's like a flow, a shape, a path that the viewer's eye can follow. So I think that is a really helpful way of thinking about composition. So, think about how they're going to travel through your image, and then, create and compose with that in mind.
Yeah, I think this really shows in your style, because all of your images look so organic, right? They're not very geometrical. They're so like natural. And what I noticed in your style is that you're really using a lot of circles, a lot of plates, bowls, and also that they kind of look that like there's a kind of gathering, people eating together,
Yes.
like really happy, homey feel in your images. And I was wondering, like, when you're using so many circles, is it because of your love for food that's served in bowls, or is it kind of more of a compositional thing that you're into?
So it's a couple of things. I think about us as humans, right? We don't have sharp edges. We're
Mhm.
soft. In nature, we have a lot of circles and spirals. So when the wind blows, it will blow leaves in a spiral. You know, like everything in
Mhm.
nature, when we have waves, they come up like this. So everything in nature kind of has a softness to it, a roundness to it. And so nature is a really big, influence for me. So I love that kind of flow. I love everything to feel like it's one wave moving into the next. That's kind of how I see things. So I love things with cloths and fabrics and things like that. So anything that is soft for me, I'm really a happy person, and yeah, I just think life is wonderful in lots of ways, and I want people to see my images and feel at home, feel happy, feel smiley. So food is a place where we come together. So often all those things are always woven in, kind of nature and softness and organic, and coming together. So that's kind of what you're probably hopefully picking up on.
Yeah, I definitely am, because yeah, your images are really like what you described. They are flowing. They're really beautiful. And also, like when we were talking about the props, I know you like props, but I know that you also have kind of, when to stop and don't add too much props, even though your images are not very minimalistic, but they are definitely not too busy. So it's quite a popular style, I think, on Instagram. Um, so what would you say is that breaking point where there are just too many props in the scene?
Yes. Well, you know what? I'd love to see if anyone has a question about that, composition and too many props and things. I really think, actually, because you've read my book, so maybe you know what I'm going to say, but I don't think there is a point. Your point is going to be different to my point, which is going to be different to somebody who's very minimal. So, and that's what I think. If we have rules like you cannot have more than 5 plates, if not, or you cannot, or if you have too many plates and it distracts from those are rules of someone else's aesthetic. So you need to see what you love, and also that can change. Like I think when I started, I had lots of things and I had lots of flowers. I don't do so much of that anymore. It's just evolving into a more quiet style, and maybe I'll go back to that. Like I think it is what you like, that you think, oh, this feels like me. That's the place to stop, and that's when you're in the right place.
Yeah, definitely. And also when you have props, you can also be really playful with them. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, I really love images. Like lately, I've been obsessed with those images where everything is flying and bright colors, like completely the opposite from what I'm posting. So I also want to try that style as well, but also in the kind of style that we do, more calm, not so like bum. You can also be playful, right? So how would you say you can add playfulness to your images?
Yes, I always, again, this is something I talk about in the book. I always like imperfections. I think if
Mm-hmm.
something isn't perfect, like there's a little crumb on the table, or somebody's bitten a piece off the cake or the sandwich, or things that are just like, or there's a little, somebody spilled their drink, there's a little. I love those imperfections because I think they just feel more relaxed. They feel a little bit playful. They don't feel so stiff. So that's how I weave things in, just little. So the term I use in the book is wabi-sabi. So it's kind of Japanese concept of, there's perfection in the imperfection. And I think weaving that in always brings in some, like an element of playfulness.
And I think it's also kind of a part of your style. So your style is really what you described. It's a little bit imperfect, but also I think when you have that perfect style, you can also still be playful and play with, I think, with colors, with shapes, with like kind
Absolutely.
of, I don't know, breaking glasses. You can really, really just, you can look past food, right? So if you're just looking at food, it would all be the same. But if you look past food, like for example, something breaking,
Yes.
you wouldn't normally see in a food image, but it can look really beautiful, right?
Yes. The other thing I love to bring an element of playfulness is I love blurred motion. I love blurred motion in food photography because again, it's a little bit dynamic and it's a little bit fun. It's a little bit unexpected. Not so many people do it. So yeah, I do love that. I do love that too.
So Kimberly, where do you get your inspiration? Where is your favorite place?
Yes. So nature for sure. Seasonal ingredients. Those are, I would say, my two big things. I do love scrolling Pinterest a lot.
Yeah.
And also cookbooks. So I try to have those be my main sources of inspiration. Also Instagram, I try to do less. And it goes back to, I think, was it Rumi who mentioned that? Like, I feel like if I spend too much time on Instagram looking at what other people are doing, then it's so hard not to then do what they're doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
To watch too much what my competitors are doing, or too much time on Instagram. Oh, somebody says no idea what blurred motion is. So blurred motion is when you take your shutter speed really low and then you have like a hand, like you don't see the hand outlined perfectly, but it's like almost like the way that you're seeing it here. Like there's like a little bit of a kind of blurry thing. So when you take your shutter speed below kind of 30 or something like that, it creates a lovely blurred motion that I love. Yeah.
Yeah, because we usually avoid blur. We're like, use a tripod, don't get blurry images, but then adding something that's not like really exactly defined in shape, it just makes you kind of wonder. It's kind of mysterious, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So, there's a thin line between finding inspiration and copying someone's work. And I think it's really easy to get into that trap, especially if you're scrolling on Instagram. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? I think you have some strong thoughts on that.
So generally speaking, I think it's I'm very relaxed about it. So if somebody quote unquote copies my style, I don't mind, because I know it's a part of the learning process. But I think if your aim is to find your own unique style, the one key reason why I think so many people struggle to find their own style is because their focus point is external. So we are visual beings, of course, so our eyes are outward. What is so and so doing? What is Anya doing? What is Gabriella doing? What are other people doing? So I'm always outside, and when my focus point is outside, I'm not tuned into me. So what we want to try and do is just gather inspiration, but always also turn the lens inwardly, because that's when we move away from territory of copying, being very similar, to much more tuned into developing and fine-tuning our own style. So I think inspiration is lovely. Copying elements of, and then creating your own mix is fine. But where it really gets like saucy is when you take inspirations from lots of different people, mix it together, and then add your own special secret sauce. That's really when you find your style, and when it's your own unique look. So I can never say that what I created is original. Like flat lay existed before me. Wabi-Sabi is a concept that's super old. Like there's nothing I do, but all the things pulled together, given a little twirl, and my special thing, that's how I create my look.
Yeah, and also I think that even though we are creatives, and even if you wouldn't get inspired by any other image, there are so many images out there that it's really like it's easy to get an image looking very similar to someone else's. And it's happened to me before, and I know that people that they haven't copied my image, it was just like a similar style. So yeah, it can happen, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you listen to yourself, and as long as this was what you intended to create, not copy someone else. And I did copy other people's images for studying, and I think it's kind of a really great way to learn light composition and so on.
Yeah, I think as long as you credit, like
Yeah.
if I, if I just made someone's recipe, or if I was really heavily inspired by someone, I usually say, styling inspired by, XYZ. So
Yeah.
if I did a lot of that, I will. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever fall into the trap of comparing yourself with others?
Yes, and that was a huge issue for me. But what I do to two things I've learned, and especially with the book journey, is there's space for everybody, and just because there's already one vegan blog, that doesn't mean that that mine can't exist. But what I try and do is I either don't follow people within my niche. So I've told Joni this. Joni is a dear friend. I love her. I think her photography is amazing, but I don't follow Joni on Instagram. And the reason is because I don't want to be like, oh, Joni had so many more followers. Like I don't want to. So I don't follow her. I support her. I cheer her on. I think she's amazing. I want everybody to follow her. I will buy her book. I will promote it. But that, just not. And there's other competitors in my feeds. I just don't follow them, or I mute them because it takes me off my path. Just spending time comparing is a losing game. So if I just focus on my thing, my voice, my images, my thing, it just means also Instagram is a more enjoyable place. Like if I go on there and I come away and think I'm not good enough, so-and-so had more likes, so-and-so sold more e-courses, or I'm just gonna come away feeling a bit rubbish about myself. I don't want to. I want to step on there and be like really energized, like, oh, I feel so amazing, it's so fun, I connected with my community, and once I compare, then it's not enjoyable anymore. So I put safety things in place so that I don't fall into that trap, because it's so easy, especially as a creative.
Yeah. I think every creative at some point will do that. But I really like your idea of not following people who you're gonna compare yourself to. So that's a really great strategy, I think.
Yeah. Oh,
there's
actually too. So lovely.
There's someone asking, from your point of view, is it okay to repeat props in different images, even if it's a different story?
Absolutely. I mean, there's only so many props you can have. 100%. And I actually think part of creating your own style is having a certain type of prop that you use.
Yeah.
So my props have very natural feel, brown tones, and I use them again and again and again, and they've become part of my signature look, the props that I use. So, and also I think less sometimes is more. I don't want to have 70,000 different plates, because A, I don't have the money, and B, I don't have the storage space. So, it's totally fine for props to crop up again and again. Absolutely no problem.
Yeah, I agree. I have too many props. I mean, I have much less than a lot of people probably do, but it's still too much. It gathers up.
No, but I think once curate, again, I've got a section about that in my book, but curating your prop collection is part of how you create your style. Not
I
every
think
prop is going to be you. It's going to allow you to really cement and pinpoint your style. So I've gotten rid of lots of props over the years that just actually were not me.
yeah.
So it's an important part of that.
I also sometimes, like, at least once or twice a year, I go through my prop collection and I really do thorough thinking about whether do I really need that prop, and if I didn't use it, I will just, it's going to my attic right now, but I need to give it away.
Yes. Create more space for new ones.
Yeah.
Can I be cheeky? I just saw Anna Rita say, but if we don't follow those whose work we love, we couldn't know about the lives and books. So I follow more than 300 creatives who I love. I want to buy their books. I want to subscribe to their newsletter. I love what they do, but I only follow the ones that I feel really inspired by. and where I don't feel competitive, or who are not too close in my niche. So who are not doing the same type of things that I'm doing. Because then for me, everyone's different, but for me, I just have that tendency to then go and compare and be like, oh, I can't believe her whatever onboarding system for her masterclass is so cool, mine sucks, or whatever. So I'm not saying don't follow them. And if you don't move into comparison and you follow these people and you feel energized and then you're following the right people. If you're following someone who's very close in their offerings as you are, and you feel competitive and you sometimes move into copying them, and that's a really good sign to maybe mute or unfollow or that kind of thing. If they energize you, inspire you, then oh my God, follow them. Like I follow Anya, I feel energized by Anya, I feel inspired by Anya. I don't feel competitive. So I know, that this makes me feel good. So I will continue to follow Anya. So hope that answers your question.
There's another question. So how do you ensure variety in your compositional techniques? When you started, did you find yourself gravitating towards one certain technique or another?
So I think about this a lot, actually. I think about, so Instagram for me as a food photographer is both a place where I connect to my community, but also it's my portfolio. It's my second portfolio. So what I want to showcase with the images that I have, I want to showcase my versatility as a photographer, and I'm also a stylist. So I really want to show. So if I'm always doing a flat lay in a whatever triangle shaped flat lay, then that's the only skill I'm showcasing. So somebody who wants me to shoot gatherings will be like, oh, you can only do 3 plates. Or, I want to be sure I have some minimalist shots, just 1 plate shots, because a lot of restaurants will want that. They don't want all that busyness. They just want, if I want to do something like drinks, I need to be sure that I can shoot not just from a flat lay. So I really think about bringing in lots of different varieties. So my grid is interesting, but it also shows my versatility as a stylist and as in my composition techniques, my food styling techniques, my photography techniques. So I never, like, you'll never see me post single plate, single plate, single plate next week. Never. Like if I've done a single plate, that means the next shot is going to be a wide angle shot. Done a wide angle shot, the next shot is going to be a 3/4. Like I'm always mixing it up, so it's never the same, and creates a nice flow in my feed, but it also shows my versatility and makes it more likely for you to get work. Yeah, so I never ever show exactly the same composition back to back ever.
Yeah, exactly. You should, if you're posting to Instagram to get clients, you should definitely post what you want, or like what kinds of jobs you want to do. That's what you need to post, right? Not what everyone else is doing, but what you want to do for clients.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. Okay, there's another question, but when you are a starter, you can be very insecure. How do you deal with that?
So I think we always feel insecure, or I don't think that ever really goes away, but we do it anyway. Do it scared. That's my motto. Like, do it scared.
And I think that when you're scared, you do the best. I think you just produce the best work.
Yeah. Like if it's not scary, then you're not trying anything new. Like if it's scared, that means you're doing something new, you're doing something exciting. You're pushing your boundaries, you're pushing the limits. So if you're feeling scared, that's amazing. Jess, like that is wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. Some more questions. When do you think is the best time to update your book? How many times a year, for example?
When she means book, what does she mean? Like
I would say, I would say portfolio.
I think it's really good to update it continuously. Every time you have a new client that you really want to do more of that, I always add. Like it's not like once a year. Like I'm continuously updating. Yeah, the more if you've got time for it, update it monthly with new content.
Yeah. Regarding props, yes, they can craft your signature style, but when it comes to client work, do we want to repeat them on different brands? I'm thinking that maybe work for different brands may look similar.
I mean, to be honest, I haven't had that be an issue.
Yeah, and also the
I haven't, so nobody has ever said, I have enough props to give it a little bit of a swirl. And sometimes I hire props if need be, but there's so many other things that you know, a lot of brands have different ways that I edit their shots, different color palettes, different moods. So the fact that I'm using the same props, no one has ever kind of shouted. And if they do, then, you know, we discuss that when we have the brief, and then I say, well, do you want me to hire props that are a little bit different? And, you know, most clients love the props that I have. So I haven't had that be an issue for me at all.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if there are some questions. I'll just check if we missed some question.
Yeah. I think that's it.
I think that's it. So I think it's time to give away your book. I wanted to claim it as mine.
Yes. So somebody wins this today, right?
Okay, so let me just take a second. Okay, so the winner of Kimberly's amazing book is, I'm gonna try and share my screen. I don't know if this is actually visible. Kimberly, can you tell me if this is
love.si?
Yeah, awesome. Yes, so I actually know this girl. Her name is Urshka, and she was on one of my workshops.
Amazing.
So I'm really happy that she got it. She's amazing, and she's gonna learn so much from your book.
So please just ask her to DM me on Instagram, and then we can
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we have just another question, so maybe this the last question that we do, and then we're gonna say goodnight. Or we just secure some budget off the quote to source new props for the specific job. Yeah, I think you
can definitely do that. I mean, I also think, you know, I always add a couple of new pieces. So for example, if I get a new client and their brand color is pink, for argument's sake, and I know I've secured a longer term contract with them, I will, you know, maybe buy 1 or 2 new plates, maybe 1 or 2 new backdrops, and have that there so that we create their own signature look. So if it's just a one-off client, then sure, you can. I always would say it as a separate, so offer that. But you know, most of the time, if the photo is right, the styling is right, you've edited in that kind of own little way, they've come to you because they love your style. And as I mentioned before, your props is part of your style, so that's what they've hired you for. And so if you do muted tones in your props, and then suddenly you go out and buy like bright red, they'll be like, wait a minute, that's not what we hired you for. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that too much, but it's good to build your prop cabinet for sure.
Yeah, I just remembered that someone DM'd me one question, and I kind of loved it, and I wanted to ask you that. So what was your most beautiful experience in your photography journey?
Do you know, I have to say, writing the book has been a really special experience, actually. And not just that, but just seeing all the reshares and all the DMs that I get about how people felt reading the book and what it's meant. Like, I feel like if I now step off of Instagram and I never share again, I feel like my life's work is done. Like that, it's felt such a special thing to create it. And yeah, that's probably been my most favorite part of it. And to share it with them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And the world is a better place with your book.
So much.
So yeah, I think it's time to say goodbye. So Kimberly, thank you so much for being my guest today. I really loved you, and I always it's the first live interview that I've done here on YouTube, so I'm really honored that you were the first one. And hopefully I am gonna do more in the future, because it's really fun to talk to a person like you, to someone who knows their way in the business, who has experience, and who's so kind to share that all with us. And I'm sure that everyone really loves you for that. So I would really thank you so much for being here. And also I would like to thank everyone for tuning in.
Yes, thank you for bearing with
Yeah.
us. Bad lighting as my as my daylight is leaving me. I'm here in darkness. Thank you so much, and for such great questions as well. So lovely to have everyone here. And Anya, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah. And everyone who's here, if you're not following Kimberly yet, you should definitely go and see her on Instagram and her podcast and follow her there. So I think that's it. So good night, everyone.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Okay, are we